Got some developing news when it comes to the vaccine. We'd known that the rollout would likely start in March of next year with frontline workers and the elderly to receive the vaccine first. But when will the whole population have access? Let's bring in our political editor, Andrew Clennell. And Andrew, you've found out the information. It looks like October is what the government's planning for. That's what their strategy would suggest.
Kieran, that's the plan, that everyone in Australia who wants this vaccine by October will have access to it. A big development indeed in terms of saving lives and hopefully preventing lockdowns and the like. Still some question marks about when international travel would resume as normal, because we know the whole world won't be vaccinated. There'll be different vaccines. But from a domestic viewpoint, it's very good news indeed. The government very happy with progress. Greg Hunt was talking about it, the Health Minister, today in terms of the start of the rollout in March.
We are on track still to have our early assessments, most likely Pfizer and AstraZeneca, hopefully completed before the end of January with, if it's a positive approval, and again that's subject to the regulator, meaning that we're on track for first vaccines in March. I spoke yesterday with the global CEO of AstraZeneca. They are finding that there are some very, very positive outcomes with their vaccinations, and they're looking at issues such as the duration between vaccines and the size of the first dose. But with what's occurring overseas, we will have the best information, we think, in the world to keep Australians safe.
The fact is, Andrew, and the Health Minister's pointed this out as well, thankfully there's not the urgency here as there is in other parts of the world to get this thing rolling out. They can take a few more months, be a bit more planned in their approach, essentially. One of the things that we've been discussing is what will happen with politicians. When will they get the vaccine? Because there is an argument to say that the Prime Minister and opposition leader and other senior figures should take it to say this thing's safe.
I think that should happen on a personal level. And you'll hear Greg Hunt discuss it here a week and a half ago, the prospect of this occurring. Scott Morrison, he's a little bit more circumspect. I'll also play his comments on Friday where he said that will be subject to the health advice.
How important is it for politicians to take the lead when that vaccine does become available?
Well, last night the Premiers and I discussed that very issue in terms of when we would take the jab, and we'll take it as soon as the medical advice suggests that we should, and in the order and priority that is set out in the strategy. And so you can be assured of that.
This is an honest question that we're considering. I've actually had this discussion with Chris Bowen on the basis that none of us want to be jumping the queue. We're quite acutely aware of that, but nor do we want to mean there's any lack of confidence. So the honest discussion I've had with Chris Bowen is it may be that there are some from both sides, but not as a class.
So our Bureau Chief, Tom O'Brien, putting Scott Morrison on the spot there, Kieran. And he wasn't sort of down that track as far as Greg Hunt was, but it just makes perfect sense to me, particularly when politicians have to travel overseas. It's not ideal they quarantine. We've seen Maurice Payne, the Foreign Minister, Defence Minister Linda Reynolds and Scott Morrison all do that this year. So perhaps there should be some priority, but it's the example it sets. We saw a Courier Mail story the other day. We spoke about a number of Julia Gillard, Kevin Rudd, all these people taking the vaccine. If it's safe, show us.
Yeah, exactly. And all the former presidents saying they'll do the same. So there is an important symbolism there.